What's going on Facebook Live? Welcome to Northeast Kayak Fishing TV. You are on Top Dogs. Tonight we have Mr. Rod Merritt from Kayak Bass Anglers of Maine. He was the Angler of the Year up there. So we got some questions for him. Rod is actually on the road right now, so we're going to get right into it so he can continue his travels home. They've had one hell of a trip, so we'll get him in here right away. How's it going, Rod?
Great. We're doing good now. Now we got some new wheels under us, brand new Toyota, and we're ready to get home and reload for the next trip and head south.
Yeah, man, I've been following you guys online. You're on Facebook. Your trip has been a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, worst things can happen. We're all safe. The best part of the whole trip was, we had some great fishing in South Florida. We got some peacock bass, knocked some of them off my bucket list, and also had our Old Town teammate win the Hobie event, and that was a highlight. We all were there to support him, and morally, and we were up on the stage, and it was really a great start to the season to get one of the teammates knock that off, and then we're looking forward to some of the other big events we're going to hit this year.
Yeah, it was great to see Jake win that tournament. Seems like a
great guy.
Yeah, he seems like a real great guy. I met him in Pennsylvania.
Top-notch fisherman,
yeah.
Top-notch. And he's real strong in the rivers, and he found some fast-flowing water there and knocked it out of the park. Really did. On that final day, caught that big fish the last hour. It was, that shows some guts right there.
Yeah, it does. To travel way down there and to fish the way he did definitely shows his level of expertise. Now, did you guys get to fish the second day at all?
Not at all. No, we didn't. With the problems we had, we were out totally on the second day. It started even before we got there, so we didn't get any pre-fishing. So the fishing was kind of a wash for us. It didn't work out, but hey, that's the way it goes. Worst things can happen. We're all safe. All the equipment's good. We're ready to go for the series that we're really aiming for. That was kind of a warm-up anyway.
Right. First one of the season, and just chalk it up as a learning experience.
Absolutely, yeah, because we're really aiming to hit all the BASS events. We're going to do all 5 of those. That's the intent. We're going to travel all over the south, hit Lake Fork after Logan Martin, and then we're also planning on hitting the Mississippi River up north, and then if things go well, we're going to hit California and Clear Lake. So we got a big schedule ahead of us, and we'd like to really make a good show for the BASS series.
Great. Now, are you retired? Is that how you get all this time to travel?
Yes, and well, I'm also a registered Maine guide. I own my own hunting lodge. I'm not a fishing guide. I'm a hunting guide, and so my season is over at the time that the kayak season's in its peak. So it really makes it a perfect combo for me.
Right. Actually, that was one of my questions. I didn't realize you were a guide, but I was going to ask you, from looking at your Facebook, I see you do quite a bit of hunting. And what's your favorite type of hunting?
I do a lot of bow hunting is just for pleasure, but I'm a sea duck guide, waterfowl. I also guide moose hunters, but waterfowl is a specialty. I have the world's largest duck boat, a 32-foot duck water I had built by Duckwater, and it's got a 350 horsepower motor, and so it's quite a treat. You need to come on up and take a ride. I'll take you out and show you some whales this summer.
Yeah, man,
it's a lot of fun.
350 on a duck boat, man.
Hey, pull a picture off my website. You can post it. It's quite a piece of equipment. Duckwater's made boats for over 20 years, and I called them out and said, "Can you make me a 32-footer?" And they said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." And it performs exceptionally. And now another guy down in Maryland has had one built this year. I had mine built last year, and he had one built this year. So now there's 2 in the world.
That's crazy, man. I've never Never even knew they made duck boats that size.
They don't.
Most guys I see duck hunting, they're doing it from kayaks and small john boats.
Well, we plan on doing a little bit of a TV show this year if it works out right, and we're going to take my big 32 and we're going to put a bunch of kayaks on it, set some guys up duck hunting, and you know, sea duck hunting off the ocean there, and so that ought to be quite a treat. It ought to be fun to watch, and we're going to try to shoot some film with that.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely interested in that. What's your website so we can all check that out?
idapro.com, like the eider duck.
All
idapro.com.
right, well, I'll definitely check that out. Well, tell
that,
us a little bit about where you're from and how you got into the whole kayak fishing scene.
Well, my primary career, I'm a long-time retired police officer. I was 36 years a police officer, active police officer, and
thank you for
and
that.
during that
Thank
time,
you for your service.
Well, it was a pleasure to do. It was a great career, and enjoyed doing it. But my hobby was always fishing and getting out there with my bass boat. I big boat bass fished for quite a while. I had some sponsors and fished up and down the East Coast with some pretty good success. And then I kind of got tired of it, raising family, on the road quite a bit on my spare time. Won a lot of tournaments, and then I got away from it. Did some bass fishing pleasure, and did some kayak fishing just with small, inexpensive kayaks. Raised kids up. My kids are now adults, and my son went off to Texas. Calls me up one day and he says, "What do you know about this kayak fishing, Dad?" And I said, "Well, I've read a little bit. It looks like a lot of fun." And he was in West Texas, so he then that year said, "Well, I'm going to go do it." Well, he came just a fraction from winning Angler of the Year in West Texas the first year out, and in a very successful club over that way, group that way, and then this year he's ended up winning. I think it's Ray Roberts. He got a second in Ray Roberts in a major event. So he's a pretty good angler himself, a real good angler because he likes to beat Dad, you know. And so I went down, fished a tournament down there with him in Ellen Henry. Came back, spent a lot of money on new kayaks that are appropriate for the sport, and spent a year perfecting my skills as a kayak fisherman, which we all know are different than big boat fishing. And then this past year in 2019, best move I ever made, joined up with KBAM, with Heather and Chris and the whole group at KBAM that are doing a fabulous job for the sport.
That's my next question. How did you find them?
I really, what happened, I signed up and my son and I were going to compete at the FLW event at Nickajack. And of course, I hadn't competed during that calendar year last year, so I couldn't go to the nationals. And so I looked who was going from Maine to the national events, and I saw that KBAM had a group going down. So I text Heather and Chris and wished them luck, and represent Maine well, and started communicating with them, and told them that I was going to hit the FLW event, which I did. I had a good time, had a really good second day, and then said, "Well, I'll become part of your group, and I'll fish your series." And boy, I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of years of bass fishing, probably over 30 years of competitive bass fishing, but I never had so much fun as I had with this group. It's really a great bunch of people. You're just out there having fun every day.
That's awesome. Why don't you tell some people that are watching and maybe some people that'll watch later on, what are some good reasons for them to join KBAM?
Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing is, if you come in and you have limited knowledge of bass fishing or competitive bass fishing or kayaking, there's people there that's going to help you, and luckily we have direct connections with Old Town, and if somebody doesn't even own a kayak and they want to come out, just try it. There's going to be experienced bass fishermen like Chris or myself that's going to be at their side going, "Yeah, you might want to try these baits, try these techniques." We'll get some a kayak in here for you to use, a PDL in here for you to try out, so somebody can get in there. And once you get in there, yes, it's competitive. Believe me, Chris and I fought it right down to the last day for the Angler of the Year, but and so you still have that, but it's not to the level where it isn't fun. It's still that atmosphere of you're trying to build the skills so they can go out on the national stage, or they could stay there and just have fun.
Right. It's funny that you actually say that about you and Chris battling it out to the end there. When I contacted Heather, I automatically assumed that Chris was the Angler of the Year, and I had just asked her. I was like, "Hey, when does Chris wanna come on the podcast?" And she's like, "Chris didn't win it. Rod ended up beating him." So that's funny that you say that, man.
Hey, look, I think it could end up the same way this year. He's a great fisherman. We've ended up being partners. We spent a lot of time together. We're going to fish all over the country together. So if he can put up with my snoring, I think we'll be all set.
Now, do you fish with any other local clubs or any other clubs?
I haven't, but I live way in the eastern part of the state, in Machias, and so it's quite a haul to get on a every weekend basis to the Southern Maine Club. I know some of those guys. I fished against some of those guys on several events. I would like to make sure that I get a chance to come down and hit some of the Southern Maine clubs, and even maybe one of the clubs down in New Hampshire or other New England clubs if I could. It's just you guys have some great water in Southern New England, and the Southern Maine Club is very active. So, but it's hard because we really at my age, I don't have a long time to wait. My wife said, if you're going to do this thing and really go out and try to make a bang, you better do it now because not getting any younger.
Right. And it definitely in Maine, the travel could be quite a ways to get from one area to the other. I actually grew up in Maine. I grew up in Naples, which like the lake, Long Lake area.
I'll tell you something that I've had over the years. I've had a lot of people come up and fish with me in Washington County, and I've been spoiled. And it's a great practice ground because it's not anything unusual. It's an average day if you go out and catch 100 decent fish. It's just crazy easy, and there's very low pressured water. There's places where it's not really suitable for big boats, and there's places where big boats it's great. But if anybody wants to go up and just get a lot of hook sets, fight a lot of nice smallmouth, some good largemouth, you can get up there and they say, well, how'd you get to be so good? Well, it's like having a lot of batting practice. When you set that many hooks, you get better.
Right. Has a lot to do with confidence also. If you're catching 100 fish in a day, every cast you think you're going to catch one. Versus if you go out and get skunked every day, you're going to go out on tournament day and you're going to think you're going to get skunked, and most of the time you're going to skunk.
Well, and that's one of the things when we're deciding on, from KBAM standpoint, we're looking at lakes for this year. One of the considerations was try to get some lakes that even the novice, the first time person out there has got a chance to get a limit, and so we want to have these people come back with some success, because there's nothing that will ruin a first time fisherman if they don't even get a bite.
Right.
So we're trying to create a successful atmosphere. Chris and Heather have worked so hard to build this thing. I think that it's a good example is what we ended with for membership last year. At the end of the year, we're already exceeding that for 2020.
That's great.
So we've got a lot of people signed up. So this year, one of the considerations that never were consideration in the past was that in Maine you have to have the permits for lakes, and we could limit it at 15 because rarely would we approach 15 on a tournament. It would be a smaller group, and now we're going, oh my God, we're going to have to look at bigger permits. Or figure it out some other way.
Right. That's great, though, that it's growing.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, we had some tight competitions and some good sized groups towards the end of the year. It kept growing, and these guys are good. There's no doubt about it. They believe me, I didn't run away with any championship, and I think Chris and I have several people this year that are going to give us a run for our money.
That's awesome. It's always good to see guys getting better, and I love to see a stiff competition rather than somebody just running away with it.
Absolutely.
Now, on your Facebook, the pictures that I saw, you were in a Hobie. And now I know
Yeah.
you're in an old town. Tell me why you made the switch.
Well, a couple reasons. Look, uh, I wish you had seen the video. You may have. If you watched the videos that Heather posted of us catching peacock bass,
Yes,
uh,
yes,
that, I mean, don't get me wrong. Hobie makes a great boat, and I have nothing negative to say about it. But that instant reverse, that quick uh, uh, speed, and being in current, teammate. That's how he ended up winning this Hobie Boss event. He got in some current. I don't think. I mean, the Hobie has its strengths. It's super stable. It has a lot of strengths. Has a ton of room. But you get in that heavy current, I don't think I could have done in my Hobie what I can do in the old town. So it has some things, especially for an older fisherman. You, a little quicker. I don't have to pedal quite so hard to get there and keep up with the young guys.
right.
So yeah, and then it's a Maine company, and it's kind of cool being from Maine. Get to represent Old Town on a national stage. That's going to be it's just been great.
That's awesome. I have a,
And something I will say for Hobie, they put on a great tournament. This tournament we just went to, very accepting of all the brands, and we took the first event. Our team did, and they didn't mind flying the Old Town the colors, even though it's a competitive. So I have nothing negative to say about that company, but man, Old Town, it really is putting it together this year.
yeah, man. I run an Old Town PDL also, and I couldn't be happier. It's definitely a great kayak. It's stable. I can stand all day long, and I'm a big guy, um, so
You wouldn't think a boat that's that quick that it would be, but the hull design is so proven. You look at it and it's so sleek that you think, well, gee, it's going to be tippy for a big guy, because I'm a big guy too, and but it isn't. And like I said, that quick reverse. I remember I hooked a peacock bass there a week ago, and it was heavy up under the brush, and Heather happened to be videotaping, and without even thinking, I was instantly hitting that instant reverse, and pulled him out. I know I had a 180 Hobie, to have to take my hands off the reel would have been just enough time for that fish to wrap. So there are some strengths to that boat that I really love. I really do, and I haven't had as much time in it as I have the other one, and so I'm going to get better every day I'm in it.
Now tell us about your setup. What are you running for electronics and gear storage?
Uh, right now, I'm going back and forth between electronics. I'm going to be running a Hummingbird. I haven't I ran a smaller Hummingbird this particular trip. I'm going to a bigger 7-inch screen, I think. I mean, not sorry, the 10-inch screen. Sorry, the big one. And because I like knowing what the structure is underneath. I haven't nailed down which one I'm going to get, but I've got about 3 or 4 weeks before we head to Logan Martin, and so and I had been with the Lowrance with my Hobie. I like the Lowrance, and I said to somebody the other day, I'm an avid bow hunter. I said I remember the transition of bows, and the top companies all had to kind of equal out, or they wouldn't sell anything. And I think all the companies have they're all in the game now. But the Hummingbird, I really like that package, and I'm going to go with one of the bigger Hummingbirds, I think.
Yeah, the Hummingbird definitely has the most detailed imaging. I was Hummingbird guy for a long time. Last season, I actually switched to Garmin, just because the user interface on the Garmin seems to be progressing a little quicker than the Hummingbird. Hummingbird still doesn't have the touch screen and things in the lower models like the Garmin does. But the Hummingbird, by far, best imaging you can
The
get.
I know I know I've mentioned him several times, but a teammate that won, he totally located that fish at the end of the thing with some of his side imaging, and he said if he hadn't had the good electronics and been practicing with it, he never would have won that event. So it really plays a part when you get at that level.
It does, and knowing how to use it is definitely a big plus. So anybody who's got electronics, just because you got them, it doesn't mean you're going to catch fish. You got to know how to use it. You got to get on YouTube. You got to watch as many videos as you can. There's plenty of people out there that showing you the tips and the tricks on how to use these things.
Absolutely. It's what even us experienced guys. The first thing I do when I have a new piece of electronics, I go on YouTube, and there's usually a half a dozen videos that private owners have put up, and some great information, stuff that you might not find in the manual. And it's easy. I'm old. I'm old, and I'm used to pulling out a manual that's difficult to to understand, and having YouTube has been fabulous for the sport. Any kind of electronics.
Now, how about gear storage? Are you more of a simplistic guy, or you take everything that's in the house with you?
Well, I'm having to come to the reality that I've got to stop taking everything, because probably I'm not going to catch a bluefin tuna in Logan Martin. So yeah, I've got to make myself, and I think that comes from all the big boat experience. You could take all that extra stuff, and slowly, I'm getting better. My son, when he competes against me, he says, "Dad, you don't have to take so much stuff. You already know what you're going to use for you in your pre-fishing." And so yeah, I I am transitioning to be more streamlined, but it's been tough. I have a lot of habits that I got to break.
Yeah, I'm in that same transition, man. I'm one of those guys that if I bought it, it's coming with me. Um, and I'm in that same transition. I can see maybe pre-fishing taking a little more stuff with you, but on tournament day, you gotta cut it down and stick to what you know is gonna work.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's what I would have done here at this past tournament, and I plan on doing Logan Martin, is pre-fishing, take a good selection, narrow it down. I'm one of these guys that once I get something top of the water column, middle of the water column, and at the bottom, uh, I'm probably going to use those three baits on that water on game day, unless something crazy changes in the. I'm not going to be digging in the bottom of my tackle box. I'm going to go with those three, and I'm going to figure out where the fish are. So you don't see me changing colors and rods a lot on game day. I'm just working, the water column and figuring out where the fish are.
Right. I'm one of those guys. I'll take 10 rods with me and use two. It's
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
well, while we're on the topic of tackle, name some of your go-to baits. Maybe a handful of your go-tos.
Well, believe it or not, I walk into Walmart lots of times, and Zoom baits. I'm a big worm guy. I like using worms. Your typical colors. Your watermelon seed, your trick worms. Uh, I'll throw a fluke occasionally, depending on what the bite is. Uh, I'm I love topwater. I love topwater. Those big smallies in eastern Maine. When you get them on a topwater bite, there's nothing any more fun. So I'll throw a topwater quite often. Buzzbait early in the morning. I love that. I like fishing a frog, usually a black frog, but on game day, I just have trouble bringing it out of the bag because it's tough to get a good hook set
It
with it.
is.
And
It can be a real disappointment.
yeah, but on the other hand, I've won a lot of money with lunkers using that bait. So it's a big fish bait. You're gambling. Sometimes when I get my limit, I'll pull something like that out and try to upgrade. But it really isn't my go-to stuff. My go-to stuff are the finesse baits. I do quite a bit of drop shotting too,
I
and
would
so
imagine being up there in that clear water.
yeah, and that's what we did down here. What little bit of time we got to be on the water, there was three rivers that made up this watershed that we're in, and in Seminole, and one of them had pretty clear water. And I think if we'd had the actual time, if we hadn't had the mechanical issues, I think we could have really shown them something, because some of the guys that fished in the clear water ended up getting paychecks. So I think if we'd have been kind of in a wheelhouse there.
Right.
But That's probably, and I think it's pretty true of a lot of us northern New England guys. We do better in the clear water than we get in that super muddy stuff down south, and a little more of a learning curve.
Yeah, that's true. We definitely have more of that clear water up here. More so in your area than mine. I'm kind of in the city, so we get a lot of runoff and crap like that. But
Well, you got to take a trip up and have some fun with us some
yeah,
weekend.
I can't wait to get back up there and go to Waterville for the regionals. That should be a blast.
That'd be good. There'll be some really good fishermen there.
Yeah. Uh, Tell us a little about the FLW experience. What was that like being there for the first major
It,
KBF FLW event?
I'll tell you what, I was impressed. It was quite an event. The big boat guys welcomed us. A lot of them were intrigued, you know, when because they put us right on the stage with the top level guys, and the fishing Nickajack, that whole watershed with Gunnersville, Nickajack, all all that is unbelievable good fishing. First day, as far as my personal performance, I made a miscalculation, and it's a mistake that probably a lot of people in the Northeast might do. It's a reservoir system, and I found some fish, and I was so excited. I couldn't even sleep the night before. I said, "Man, I'm going to really put the hurt on people." And I went back next morning. They dropped the water level 4 feet, and wherever my fish were was dry land. And so I had to scramble and find a new spot. Got a limit, but I was kind of out of the running, you know, because I was back mid pack. Day two, I went and grabbed my limit quick, and then went out and did some fishing on a hump, and caught 3 fish right off the bat, and I was very competitive. If I'd had 2 days like that and had just that little extra knowledge of the reservoir system, I think I could have shown them something on that day. So it gave me a lot of confidence, and that's part of the reason why coming back and winning Angler of the Year, and then taking on this BASS challenge, I'm excited. I can't wait till we get to Logan Martin. That's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I bet. I originally planned on going there, but I can't make it, and I wish I could. That'd be a great one. I can't do that and the national championship back to back. I just can't swing it. But that would definitely be a great place to go fishing.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to it. I mean, it's a dream to be there on the big stage, and you know, I think this is exciting for the sport. I mean, the sport itself is exciting to me. This kayak thing has reinvigorated me, but to be able to go to the Bassmaster Classic and be part of the first event, uh, this is really unbelievable. I can't wait to see all the kayak fishermen there. The kayak community has welcomed me with open arms, and I just encourage anybody that was in my shoes, no matter what your age is. You know, if you're an older guy like me, or a young person that just wants to get in the sport, jump in. Anybody can do it, and you can do it at this level if you really want to.
Right. You gotta put in the time and the effort and be a good loser for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, as much winning as I've done in my life, I still lose quite often.
Right.
So everybody has that, and you can look at any other sport, whether it's NASCAR or something. There's nobody that wins every
Nope.
time.
Especially in individual type of sport like this, with the amount of people that are doing it, your likelihood of winning all the time is very slim. I mean,
Uh,
even KVD. I mean, yeah, he's the most decorated, but if you look at the amount of tournaments he's fished to the amount that he's won, I mean, it's probably not even a quarter of the tournaments, and he's
exactly,
the greatest. I mean, so people got to realize that you got to be a good loser in order to be a great champion. Uh,
exactly. And I'll tell you what, I know I've said a lot about KBAM, but man, anybody that's even thinking about it, come talk to us. Talk to Heather or Chris or any of us that are members, and we'll make it happen. Get you out there, even if you don't own hardly anything. Come try it, and then see if you like it. If you're a fisherman or somebody that likes to compete, both things hit it, and it's great bunch of people. It really is.
Now, what's your? You talked a little bit about it, but what's your 2020 schedule? I mean, you going all out? You're doing all the bass, all the KBF.
Right now, for sure, with me, I'm doing all the bass and the national championship. Uh, with We're probably going to hit, depends on schedule, maybe another one or two of the Hobie series. That's kind of up in the air. The Like the Northeast Championship that you spoke of, we're definitely going to try to be part of that if we can. We're going to hit enough events so we can be there. And but as you can see, with travel and trying to fit everything in, we're a little bit in flux of how much it's going to be. We're lucky. Uh, we Trailer company Malone. They provide us with trailers. Old Town has been fabulous. They're keeping us going, and so if we pick up a couple more sponsors, we may even hit more events.
That's great. I love to see you guys get to all of them. I look forward to seeing you guys down the national championship. That's for sure.
That'll be a lot of fun. We'll have to get together.
Yeah, definitely.
But remember, you got to come up. You got to come up Washington County and catch 100 smallmouth with me in a day.
Yeah, that's going to be a good time. So, what are your 2020 goals? What's your goals for the season?
Like I mentioned before, I'm not a young man, so I got to set my sights high because I don't have the time. So I would like to be on the stage at least one of the events. I want to win one of these things, and I think anybody on our team is capable of winning on a given day. And if we put the effort in, we're not just showing up the day of the events. We're going to be pre-fishing. We're going to put 100% effort into it. We're supporting each other and helping each other with scouting and techniques, and so I think with the whole package, I think we've got a chance of doing something special. I really do. I'd like to see us win one of these big events.
Yeah, I'd like to see it too. You definitely seem like a great guy. You're everything that Maine is. I can see it in you. I mean, I grew up in Maine. The way you talk, the way you present yourself, it takes me back home a little bit. You're definitely a Mainer.
We just came out of the deep South. Believe me, we've heard some accents, and they noticed I talk a little different than they do.
Yeah. When I went down to Toledo Bend 2 years ago, I think it was, and the guy at the gas station, he telling me he couldn't understand me. I'm like, man, you're telling me you can't understand me? You sound like Boom Hour over there, like.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard some interesting accents, and during our adventure with the old truck that stayed in the South, we met some interesting mechanics chewing tobacco. So I called a buddy of mine while we had one of our layovers, and he says, "This is going to sound good in the book." He says, "You got to write a book at the end of your career."
Yeah, I mean, how many times altogether did you guys break down?
Oh, we broke down the first time. It's funny because when we left Maine, we did 1,200 miles or whatever it was. Made it to South Florida for the thing with Old Town and shooting the stuff with Old Town and doing the peacock bass fishing. Did some saltwater stuff. The minute we started towards our real goal, which was the event, we broke down in northern Florida before we got out of up near the Panhandle, and then we probably broke down 4 or 5 times. And it was funny because Chris, it was his pride and joy. He loved this truck, and he really maintained it well. But she'd had her. And finally, the end of it, the last thing that went wrong, he says, she sent me a message, and we walked right into the Toyota dealership, and and the truck was on a wrecker. And he says, "You can keep that. I'm taking that brand new one right over there." And that's what we're in now. So he retired it right there, and it was time. And it's funny because the vehicle looked just like brand new. I mean, he really maintained it well, took care of it.
Yeah, from
It
all
was
the
worn out.
pictures and everything, it didn't look like a piece of crap. I mean, it looked like something I would drive to
Oh,
anywhere in the
absolutely.
I
I drove hundreds of miles down here. It didn't wobble, shake, do anything, but just all of a sudden it decided everything's going to go wrong at once, and it did. And it's funny because I have two new pickup trucks. Heather has a new pickup truck sitting at home, and we decided to take that one because it had this nice cap on it. And he says, "Oh, it runs great. We won't have any problem." And so it was just the luck of the draw. So now, if we go as a team or a group like we did this time, all four of the trucks are good. So
Right.
yeah, so we're all set for the rest. The important part of the trail. This boss event was kind of a prelim for us, a warm up anyway.
Right.
Testing some of our equipment, and we were going to be down there for Old Town anyway.
So you guys went down there to shoot some like marketing videos, or?
Yeah, and get together with some of our other team members. You know, we we got to meet guys from all over the country, from Texas and other places that are part of the Old Town group of pro staff, and we shot some marketing stuff, did some fishing together, developed a lot of good friends down there. So it was a good way to kick off the season there. And like I said, if you ever get a chance to get down to South Florida and catch some of those peacocks, they fight like crazy, and it's just plain fun.
Yeah, I would love to. That's definitely a bucket list fish. I'd love to catch one of those, a big one of those.
Well, and the funny thing is, you go out there and you just want to put one in the boat first, and the guy that's a local guy says, well, it's kind of cold for South Florida, which was warm for us, and he says you're gonna have to catch them on shiners. So the first couple I caught on shiners, well, us being all tournament fishermen, we were like, we don't want to use live bait. So every one of us, even though it was kind of against his better judgment, that we started pulling out a bass tackle. Well, before the day was over, I think every one of us caught at least one peacock on on artificial bait, one type or another. And everybody was trying all the different stuff. We didn't know if they'd bite. And then I ended up catching 3 big largemouth out of the canal. I caught one that was 8 pounds.
Wow.
And I mean, a bucket mouth. And they were like, he was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And so, yeah, so we really kind of, he was more specialized, I won't call it specialized, but what he's mostly fish for was peacocks. And he didn't realize there was big largemouth in there like that, I don't think.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds like you guys had a great time. That wind is starting to pick up there.
Yeah, we just got out of I mean, the rivers are overflowing here. They've had flash flood warnings, and we kind of been watching the radar as we're going along, and we kind of creeped off to the western side of it and stopped. It's a good time to do the interview.
Yeah. Now, what would you say was your best event of the season last year for KBAM?
The KBAM, I don't know. I kind of, it was more consistency to me, limiting every day, because we had some cold events, and I started out, getting limits on days when nobody could get a limit. And I think I don't know if one stood out any more than the other. I remember one day, and like I said, Chris and I were battling all year. He'd been a great fisherman and had a lot of experience. It was fun. There was one day when and I don't remember exactly which lake we were on, and we were struggling to finish our limits. And he and I met coming on an island, and he was fishing one direction, and we laughed and joked. And he went across to the mainland, which is only like 100 yards from this island. And I'm like, well, I'll just make one more cast right here where he and I'd been sitting, and I ended up catching the lunker right there. And it was like, you could see him go, holy crap. And it was just luck. It wasn't any amount of skill for that. I just happened to be the right place, the right time, right in the hottest part of the day.
It's always great to pull that big one out right in front of somebody. It's always great to do it right in front of them.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, Chris, we're in the spirit of the always congratulating, always the first guy to come pat me on the back when I had one. Same thing I did for him. If he's on the stage at one of these big events and wins it, I'll be the first one to be up there cheering for him. So like we did this past time for our other teammates. So
It seems
You know,
like most of the kayak community is that way. We want to see
absolutely.
everybody do just as good as we want to see ourselves do.
You know, and I don't speak bad of the big boat guys because they did it a lot of years, but man, the kayak guys have taken it to a whole new level. That camaraderie, it really is. And I'm not exactly sure what the dynamic that makes that happen, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be around these people.
It really is. I think I do it more for that than I do it for the cash and the check sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. The and the other thing is my wife now has decided that she's going to come out this year and fish some of the KBAM events. She says you guys are having way too much fun, and her and I go out and fish quite a bit. So she isn't without experience, and the only thing is she's probably going to make me look foolish for the years over because she's going to give me a whooping.
That's awesome. I love to see that husband and wives that fish together. It's good bonding time and away from all the stress of life.
You know, and somebody like myself that's experienced both. Uh, the landowners around the lakes, man, they respond so kindly to the kayak fishermen. They're out there talking to us as we go by if they're raking leaves or they're doing something, and you know the whole experience seems to be elevated because of the quietness and the challenge, and because the other thing is it keeps me in shape too.
Right. Yeah, you're always out there pedaling and paddling. Um,
Well, I'll tell you a quick story on the Nickajack thing. I had picked a place that I was taking off the landing, and there were two young men, and I'll be 60 this year, so I'm not a young man, and and they were in their 20s. Well, we took off and we headed a couple miles in the same direction, and about a mile out, I passed them and was down to my spot and already had two fish in the boat before they came into the cove where I was. Well, they looked me up at the award ceremony, and next thing I know, I have one of those young guys on each of my shoulder and go, "We got one question. How old are you?" And I told them, and they just shook their head. They said, "So even us old guys can kick it up once in a while with
yep, yep,
these PDLs."
yep. I'm not quite here. I'm going on 40. Um, but yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, my brother fishes with us, and he's in his 20s, and I'll put the pedal to the metal and kick his ass, man. I'll be gone.
Well, and you think how few sports is there that uh, those that many age ranges. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, or you're 60 or you're 20. Everybody's on an even playing field. I mean, you look at some of the females in the sport. Uh, they 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 they're going to give me a whooping, and there isn't a lot of sports where we all play on such an even playing field.
Right. I mean, you still got to be athletic and in shape to do this sport. You can't just be thinking you're going to go out there and paddle 10 miles in a day. It's not going to happen. It's not easy. Uh,
No,
I've been working out lately because I've been slacking. So this past week I've actually been on the elliptical and on the bike, and I've been working out, trying to get ready for that national championship.
that's what I did for the last 3 weeks before I went. I went to the University of Maine at Machias gym, the only good gym that has good equipment in our area, and they've got a good elliptical there, and they've got some bikes. And I spent my share of time to get ready for this.
Now, this be the last question. It's something that I ask everyone. I'd like you to name your top 5 anglers of all time, and it can be anyone. It can be a friend. It can be anybody.
Ah, that's a tough one. Kevin Van Dam definitely would be because my style generally when I can, I like to run and gun and power fish like he always did. Uh, wow. I have a close friend, this personal friend in Virginia, Mike Nicely. He's an expert topwater guy that taught me a lot about different types of topwater and stuff. Um, man, there's I
Come on, three more. There
I
you
like
go. Yep.
I like Iaconelli. I like his energy. You know, and I know I'm mentioning big boat guys, but that's where most of my experience comes from. Yeah, and so I probably leave it with that group right there.
All right, that's a good group. All right, so I'm going to let you thank everybody you need to thank, and then we're going to let you get back on the road and try and get back safe and sound for the next one.
Absolutely. Again, mentioned Malone Trailer. You see this beautiful trailer behind us. We've got the full kayaks on. They got us there a lot better than the truck did. and Old Town Kayak. Plus our spouses that allow us to do it, encourage us to do it, and believe it or not, it seems strange to me. We're getting texts from people that claim they're fans, so it sounds really strange to me to have a fan. But people are kind of following us because we're doing the trail across the country. So, but yeah, our sponsors are really stepped up this year, and we're looking forward to it, and I hope we get a chance to talk to you again someday.
Absolutely.
And I'll see you at the national championship.
I'll definitely see you there.
And then come on up, catch some of the smallies.
Absolutely. I got to make a trip up there and catch some smallies. I always love catching some smallies.
All right, buddy.
All right, Rod. Thanks for coming on and talking, and we'll see you next time. All right. Safe trip home.
No problem. All right. Bye.
All right, guys. That was Mr. Rod Merritt from Kayak Bass Anglers of Maine. He was the Angler of the Year. Seems like a real nice guy. That was my first time ever talking to him. They had one hell of a trip. They went down to Lake Seminole for the Hobie BOS event, and they had nothing but problems with their Toyota Tundra. It was, I guess, on its last leg, which they didn't expect until they got down there and it started breaking down. But they went and bought a brand new truck at the dealership, and they're on their way home now. They're in Virginia, and they got to get back to Maine and get ready for the next event and the rest of the 2020 season. So we wish them some luck. Guys, thanks for watching Northeast Kayak Fishing TV. I'm your host, Jay Lacasse. We will see you tomorrow night with the Northeast KBF Regional Coordinator, Mr. Jason Gardner. It should be a fun episode. Me and Jason like to bust a little balls, so this should be a real great episode. I'm sure Mr. Ken Wood's going to tune in, and he'll have a whole lot of ball busting himself, and it's going to be a real great show, so you guys are not going to want to miss tomorrow night's show, 9 o'clock with Jason Gardner on the Friday Night Spotlight. So we'll see you then. Tight lines, good times. See you next time.